Hi there, Jonny here from JonnyLipshamStudios.co.uk and welcome to Studio One Pro 7. Alright, so in this very special video, we are going to go over just a few of my favorite features in the brand new Studio One Pro 7. There are a lot of brand new features in Studio One Pro 7. For a start, the fact that it's called Studio One Pro 7 is a new feature in and of itself. But that one aside, there are a lot of brand new features that are now available in Studio One Pro 7, and I'm basically going to go through in this video just a few of them. And let me just make this clear, I am only going to be scratching the very surface of each of the features that I'm going to demonstrate, because otherwise I could be here for a very long time and I don't want to make an extremely long video. I want to keep this reasonably short so that you get a good overview of all the new features. So with that said, let's dive in. All right, so we now have the ability to loop events in a very cool way. And actually, those of you that are Logic users, you're probably going to love this feature. So what I can do now is I can hover my mouse at the bottom kind of corner of this event here, and I can just drag. And it will loop whatever was there. In this case, it was just a 1-bar drum loop. Which is fine, but let's say, actually, what we really want to do is we want this to run all the way to the end marker of our song, because we want this drum groove to continue regardless. Now, what you used to have to do was just spam the D key on your computer keyboard, which is fine. It's one way to do it, but it's not very efficient because you could end up destroying your D key if you're doing this a lot in your productions. And so you don't want to do that. You don't want to waste the time doing that, and you don't want to get the wrist and finger RSI from doing that either. So what you can now do is you can right click the event and you can check this box here that says loop. So let's click that guy and notice that the event has extended all the way to the end marker. So not only can you do this with instrument tracks and events on instrument tracks, you can do this with audio as well. So if you know you've got a repeating pattern, for example, a shaker, and you've just recorded a 2-bar or a 4-bar shaker loop, and you want this to go all the way to the end of your song, you can do this without having to spam the D key or copy paste or any of that stuff anymore. So in the same way as we did for the instrument event, we're going to do the same with the audio event here. We're going to right click it and we are going to choose loop. And this audio event has now gone all the way to the end. Now, in this case, this is just a trumpet sample, which sounds like this. Now, in this case, I probably would not want that to go all the way through to the end because it would just be too repetitious for a trumpet part. However, something like a shaker or a conga pattern or a cowbell that you just want to run all the way through your song, this is really, really, really useful to be able to do. To be able to just set your start and end markers or within a loop, so it doesn't have to be within the start and end markers. You can just use the loop range, and if you've just got the loop range set to, I don't know, 16 bars, and you want to fill that 16 bars with a shaker or a cowbell or something, anything that your heart desires, but you want it repeated, then you can just check that loop box and it will loop between the start and end points of your loop range. Very, very powerful, very cool new method for looping that we now have in Studio One Pro 7. Another very cool feature that is a global feature in Studio One, and you've probably been observing it in the transport bar here, is this one here, transpose. This is a global transpose feature. This is very, very handy if you have a session where you've been working with a vocalist and maybe you've been working in the key of A minor and your song sounds great. It's been working really well, but the vocalist tells you, maybe I'd be more comfortable singing this up a half step in the key of B flat minor. Well, what you would have to have done in previous versions of Studio One is you'd have to select all events, and then you'd have to use the track inspector or the event inspector to transpose them all up by a half step. Could be, you know, a bunch of clicks, and then you'd have to try and stay on top of what's been transposed and what hasn't been transposed. So with this global transpose feature, what you now do is you select your tracks. In this case, I've only got the one that I really want to transpose here, which is this trumpet part. And you can leave the drum part completely unaffected by not selecting the follow global transpose, which I'm going to show you in just a second. But if you have like a whole bunch of tracks, then, and this includes MIDI, so instrument tracks as well as audio tracks, same deal, select all those tracks and then go to the track inspector, and then you will find that there is this option here that says follow global transpose. If I check this box now, and let's say I go down here and I move this up so that now it is gone up by a half step. So let's drop it back to 0. Let's play the track. And then let's push this up by 1. All right, so now it has gone up from A minor to B flat minor, and we could keep going. We could transpose this as much as we want. And this will affect all tracks that you have selected with the global transpose option checked. And let's say you're happy with this and your vocalist then goes and nails a perfect take that you are happy with and everybody is happy and you now all agree that B flat minor is the correct key for this song and it sounds the best in B flat minor, you can freeze it. And the cool thing about this is when you make that transposition permanent, there is a single command in the track menu which is called freeze global transposition. And basically, it will then lock the transposition. It will lock the chords in the chord track, the key signature, and all events in their transposition as you've set it down here. So if you go up to the track menu, you will now find this option that says freeze global transposition. You click on this guy, and everything that is transposed will be fixed in place. That includes the chords, that includes the key signature, and all the notes. And all the audio events on all of the tracks that have this option checked. And you'll find that this option will then become unchecked because everything is frozen in place. So in the note editor, we now have a couple of very powerful brand new features, which again, I'm only just going to scratch the surface of. And one of these is a very useful compositional tool, which I think everybody, whether you're a beginner or you are advanced, is going to get a big kick out of, because it extends kind of what we did before with being able to lock scales and lock keys and that kind of thing in version 6. And all the kind of panels for that were all over here on the left, and they weren't very easy to see and they weren't very easy to find and use. So what we've done is we've improved that. We've created this new scale panel. So if you click on this button here, it opens up the scale panel. And you get this nice little keyboard representation and the key center, and then this blue snap to scale button, and then the scale type here. I'll come on to what this is in just a moment. There are some pre-created scales. That's these ones here. But you can actually also create your own scales. And the way you do that is by basically clicking on these notes here to clear the board, so to speak. And the only one that stays locked is the one that's on the key center. In this case, we're in C, so the C stays locked. So let's say you want to create a scale that has some exotic kind of almost like a whole tone scale, but not quite a whole tone scale kind of setup. So you've got a flat 2 here, major third, a flat 5, a flat 6, and a major 7. So that's going to sound kind of quite exotic, quite unusual. And let's say this is going to be your scale. And of course, you can totally create something out of this. Basically, when you've got the snap to scale on, if I have the paint tool to hand and I hold down the Alt button, I can now drag out some notes. Oops, that didn't work. Let's do that again. So Alt key, and I can just keep on dragging upwards until I get what I want, and that's not working. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong here. I know what I'm doing wrong. Let's try that one more time here. So let's go on to C here. And we'll just drag out a few here. And I'll let go of the mouse, and then I'll let go of the Alt key. I was letting go of the Alt key too soon. That was what was going on here. So now I've just created some notes that are locked to my scale. And then I can just add in like a note that goes down on the root here. And so, yeah, that sounds a really weird scale. But let's say this is the scale that you want to use, and you want to store this. Well, you can click on the little paper icon here, and you can go store preset, and then you can give it a name, and you can call it whatever you want. You don't have to give it a fancy Greek or Latin name if you don't want to. You can call it flat 2, you can call it flat 2, flat 5, flat 6 if you want to, and that's kind of your reference for your scale. Or you can just call it Jeff or Susan or Dorothy, whatever you like to call your scale, and then you just hit OK. And I'm going to cancel this for right now, and I can show you scales that I have already created. I've created this diminished whole tone scale here, and if I just clear out all of this notation here that I did earlier, because those notes will not fit, and then if we go back to our paint tool, and if I center myself on that C again, and this time I'll do it properly, I promise, and I'm gonna now drag upwards until I have all of my steps, and then I'm going to let go of the mouse and then let go of the Alt key, and this is our diminished whole tone scale. Bit of a weird sounding scale, and basically this has a flat 2, a flat it has basically a flat 2, a flat 3, a natural 3, and then it has flat 5, flat 6, and flat 7. It's a nice sounding scale, but it sounds very exotic, and so I really like it if I'm writing something that has an element of mystery about it. I like to use this scale, and then I can just like add in notes according to whatever I want, and it's snapped to this scale, which means I'm never going to enter a note that doesn't fit this scale. So this is a useful thing, and then you can keep this piano view in place, and the correct notes are highlighted with the blue tips on the end of the notes. But you don't have to view it this way if you don't want to. You can view the in-scale view here. That takes away the piano view, and instead what you have here is the steps of the scale over here. And it tells you, if you hover over them, you can see what the actual pitches are, but it also gives you the Roman numerals for what step of the scale, 1 through 7, 8 obviously being the octave. Or you can click on this used view here, and this basically restricts you to just 1 octave view of the notes that I have used. So if I had used pitches above this or below this, this would expand so you could see all of the pitches that I have actually used regardless of octave. So these are useful if you don't want to have the keyboard as a frame of reference. Or if you prefer to have the keyboard view as we have always had it in Studio One, you can have that if you prefer. Very, very useful for composing and being locked to a specific scale. And next, we're going to take a look at the brand new extended Deep Flight 1. It now has pretty much the same GUI as Lead Architect, which was an instrument that was added to Studio One as basically an exclusive instrument originally for Studio One Plus members. And then it became available for purchase so that you could actually go and buy it if you wanted to from one of the third-party vendors. But the good news is here that not only do we have Deep Flight 1 added to Studio One, we also have Lead Architect added to Studio One for free. So it is now integrated into Studio One Professional, Studio One Pro 7, which means that whether you have the perpetual license or whether you have the subscription model, you still get Deep Flight 1 and you still get Lead Architect included. Regardless of whether you are perpetual or subscription member. So this is good news, and the new GUI is based, as I said, on the GUI for Lead Architect, and I like the GUI, I like the look of it, and we have some new sounds, and we have some new hybrid sounds as well, and some organic keys as well. So we've got a lot. We've got some leads here, and we've got some choirs, and we've got some pads, which sound very, very nice. We've got some hybrid pads, which are hybrid between kind of analog and digital sounds. And then we've got these gated pads, which give you some pumping and some, kind of rhythms if you want those kind of thing. I'll just play you one little example here. That one's going to keep going for a little while. And then we've got some of these, like this one here. A little bit weird sounding. Let's try this one. So yeah, there's plenty of very, very cool sounds, pads, leads, whatever you need in Deep Flight 1. Very, very nice. Nice little complementary instrument alongside of Lead Architect, which I've demonstrated before with the Studio One 6.6 launch. So if you missed out on that, go check out that video and you'll see my my demo of that. But this is very, very cool. And has a lot of great sounds available in it, and is fully customizable in the same way as Lead Architect is as well. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the new features for the instruments. So if you are making a virtual instrument track, such in the case here, we have Impact. What happens with a brand new song is you get this now automatic bus channel that's created. It's like a folder bus channel. And it's basically specifically for instruments such as Impact that has a multi-out. So if you're using something like Contact or UJam or something like that, then this is what will be created automatically in Studio One Pro 7 in a brand new song. Now, if you've got an existing song that you created in version 6, let's just say, and you want to have this new instrument bus created, then you can basically right-click the instrument slot here, and at the moment it says remove instrument bus because it's already been created, but if it hasn't been created, it will say here create instrument bus, and then it will automatically do that for you. Now, if this is a behavior that you don't necessarily want because of a certain configuration that you are working in, then you can come up here to Studio One and you can go to Options, and then you click on Advanced, and then you click on Console, and you'll see that there is this option here that says automatically create buses for multi-out instruments. And you can uncheck this, and the original behavior from older versions of Studio One will persist rather than the new multi-out instrument bus channel. So if you don't want that behavior because of certain songs that you are bringing over from older versions of Studio One, then you can uncheck this, hit apply, hit OK, open up the new song, and it will behave as it has always done, and you won't get this automatic instrument bus thing created. Staying with virtual instruments, I'm going to show you something that's pretty cool with Impact. And so I have Impact here. But watch this. If I close the mixer and I open the note editor instead, now take a look at this. We have Impact now integrated into the note editor and the drum editor. So if I go over to the piano roll, you'll see it's here as well. If I go back to the drum editor, you can see that it is here. And it's available from this little button here that says pad controls. So I can turn this off and the integration will disappear and you'll get all of your real estate back. But let's say you want to have some control over what's going on in Impact, or you even want to audition pads or change out an instrument, but you don't want to leave the drum editor or the note editor. You now have that option by clicking on this guy here. I think this is a really cool little addition, but this only actually works for Impact, so it won't work for third-party drum instruments like Virtual Drummer or Easy Drummer or any of those other third-party drum programs like Slate Digital and things like that. It won't work for those. It only works for Impact. However, I think it would be nice if it is possible to see it integrated with third-party products in the future, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I think this is a pretty cool little addition, and then you can just turn that off here if you don't want it on. And now also, by popular request, popular demand, whichever way you want to call it, we now have a detachable browser in Studio One. This has been highly requested feature. I think this had like almost the most vote ups over at answers.presonus.com that we've ever had. And so here it is. It is finally implemented, and that is the detachable browser. So if I click on this detach arrow here, doink, it detaches. And the cool thing about this is I can then move this off onto a second screen where I can have the browser on its own separate place on a separate screen if I have multiple monitors. At the moment, I only have 2 monitors, but if I had 3 or 4, then yes, I could detach all the editors and now detach the browser as well. If you want to reattach it, just click the reattach button and it goes back to where it has always been. I really like this, and I think it's pretty cool. All right, next up, we have Splice integration in Studio One for the very first time. This, I have to say, is probably my favorite of all the features that have been added to version 7. This is outstanding. Not only do you have a pretty decent amount of samples and loops that are available to you for just being basically an owner of Studio One Pro 7. But if you are a member of Studio One Pro Plus as well, you have even more sounds and loops and that kind of thing available to you from the Splice integration. But if you are also a subscriber to Splice, you have full access to everything that is available to you in your membership with Splice. Fully integrated. All you need to do is basically sign in with your credentials by clicking on the cogwheel here and entering your information, and then a code will appear, and then you just confirm the code and you sign into your Splice account via the web browser. It connects the two together, kind of like it does with the SoundCloud integration and the TuneCore integration, where as soon as you have connected the Studio One to the Splice account, then it works automatically. It connects the two together and you have access to whatever you have available in your Splice account. If you don't have a Splice account, you can get one. The pricing is actually really, really reasonable for Splice. If you like, for example, if you just go for just the Sounds Plus subscription, it's less than a tenner a month. It's pretty darn cheap, and you get access to pretty much every sound and every loop that's available. And you have credits towards downloads, which means you do have a bit of a limitation on the number of downloads you can download per month. But other than that, it's pretty decent. But of course, you don't have to have a Splice account if you don't want it. There is some that is curated and is available to you for free, just by the fact and the virtue of this integration. It's very, very cool. Like I said, I'm only going to scratch the surface. So I searched jazz because I'm a jazz guy, and I've always wanted a really good horn section sample sounds. Those are the kind of things I'm into. Those are the kind of things that I look for. And I found a bit of a gem. And I've got these chords that I played on my Rhodes earlier. And what I want to do is I want to see if this will actually fit. So what we can do here is we can drag this guy. Oops. I didn't want to do that. I have to go find that again. I think it's this one here. So I can just basically drag this one and put it up here. And as you can see, it now tells you that you've downloaded something via the transfers. And so I can now play this. So it sounds pretty good already. Let's get rid of this track because we don't need that one. Let's remove that. That was from my bad attempt at dragging something in. So why don't we change up the instrument? So let's clear brass and woodwind. And let's see if we can find something that's a little bit like drums, maybe. And see if we can find something that will fit this. Okay, let's try this. Nope, definitely not. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, but maybe not. Let's try this one. No, certainly not. No. No. There's some bleed through on that a little bit. Oy, 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 oy. Okay, so let's just find something here. And they're all incredibly loud. Yeah, I'll just go with this right now. Takes a second to load in. And we're going to pull this down because I know it's going to instantly be fecking loud. And I think probably me just going through the browser there was loud. And actually, not bad at all. It took me a minute to find what I was after there, but I like what we ended up with. And so we've got my chords, and actually the horn section loop there fits those chord changes perfectly. And the drums actually sound all right. It's not a perfect fit, but it's not bad. But there you go. Okay, next up. This is probably one of the biggest features that we've ever added to Studio One, and this has been extremely highly requested, as highly requested as I spoke about earlier. Finally, we have stem separation in Studio One. This is extremely cool. I have played with this a few times, and what we have here is my song, Dig Myself a Hole. I'm just going to play about 5 seconds of this. All right, enough of that. So that's my song. That's just the intro to Dig Myself a Hole. And what we're going to do is we're going to separate out these stems. And this uses AI technology to do this. And it's pretty darn cool. So let's take a look at what we need to do. So we need to right-click the event. And we need to go down to Audio. And we need to find Separate Stems, which is right here. Now, as you can see, I have already done this a few times, so it appears in my recent items. So we're going to click this guy, and we're going to give this a go. And when you click it, this is the dialog box that appears. Vocals, drums, bass, and then other stuff. And at the moment, this is as advanced as it gets at the moment. But we are basically in the early days of stem separation in Studio One. This is only going to get better and snappier and give you more and more options. So I can only see this getting better and better and better. At the moment, it's a little bit on the basic side, but, you know, we've never had it before. So I think that's an improvement in and of itself. So we need to click OK. And when we click OK, it will take a little while for it to separate everything out. So let's do that. And it has finished, and you will note that we now have a bunch of extra channels in our mixer. Let's close the mixer for now. What you'll also note is that the original stereo mix has been muted, and what we now have are these stems. Let's see what it has come out with. And I'm going to play pretty much exactly the same section that I played of just the stereo mix. So let's play this. against me, my back against the wall. All right, let's solo some of these up and let's see what we've got. So this is the vocals. Let's see what this is like. Okay, that's the Hammond organ. When everything's against me, my back against the wall. Now that's pretty good. It's got the vocal pretty good. All the words, 'cause I feel 2 feet tall. All right, let's check out what else we've got. Let's see how good these drums are. Not bad, not bad. All right, so we got the bass. Let's have a listen to the bass. Not bad. There's little bits of Hammond organ that are poking through there and a little bit of the Fender Rhodes that's popped through there. But, you know, hey, that's okay. Let's check out this last one here and see what this one is. Now this is actually pretty good. This has grabbed pretty much everything else. The lead guitar and the electric piano and the rhythm guitar. So this is great. If I wanted to do, let's say just a backing track without the vocals, I could just solo up all of those and not have the vocal. That's really, really useful. If you want to create a backing track without the vocals for doing like a karaoke mix of one of your favorite songs, that is going to work pretty impressively good. I really am very impressed with what it is at the moment. Yes, there's some audio artifacting here and there, but once you actually put all of the stems together, it actually sounds very good, I think. Pretty good for a first attempt at stem separation in Studio One. I can't wait to see where this goes. And finally, my last feature that I'm going to review here. And like I said, I'm not going to go into great detail on this feature at all, because it's just too big and it would make this overview video insanely long, and it's already long enough. So, So I'm going to show you basically how this works. And I'm going to go into much more detail on the launcher in a standalone separate video where I can take my time and go through exactly how you set up what you see before you, which is the cells and the scenes and how you can make all of these work. So I'm going to go into a lot more detail with that. But suffice to say, we now have a clip launcher inside of Studio One, which is very, very cool. And you have this scene playlist, which is a panel that you can open up on the side here. You don't have to have it open, but you can do. And actually, I recommend that you do, because you can trigger the individual scenes in any order you like. And you can set the trigger mode and the quantized value basically when the next scene starts. what value you want that to be. I have that set to 1 bar and the launch mode set to trigger, but you could have this as a toggle or as a gate as well. So basically what I did was I went and grabbed a whole bunch of different things, different samples from this guy here. So this is a new folder that you will get in Studio One Pro 7. And it's called the Studio One Launcher Loops. And there are different styles and there are different tempos and different keys for each of these. There's loads. So the only one I'm using here is the Soul one. But you can set this to whatever you want, and you can make any combination of any of these. So you could have different tempos and all sorts, and they will all kind of resolve and be at the correct tempo for what you're doing. And this is found in the construction kits folder, which is in the loops tab of your browser. And you'll see it here called Studio One Launcher Loops. And basically this is just a bunch of loops that you can put into here. You can record directly onto these cells as well, but you have to have a corresponding track. And you'll see that these arrows here, these arrows basically tell you what is in focus, either the cells and scenes in the launcher or what is on the tracks. So if it's set this way, notice how the cells on this track now are dimly lit. And that means that what's on the track here is in focus. But if I click it back, now that lights up and now this is back in focus. So what I've done here is I've just got 3 scenes of loops that I threw together from this Soul folder to try and come up with something that sounds vaguely musical and can be done as an arrangement. Like I said, you can record directly into the cells themselves. So if you want to have like a little vocal sample or something like that in each cell, you can actually record directly to that. And I will demonstrate that in my more detailed separate video. But suffice to say, let's just give this a play and I will play these different scenes and you'll see how they work. So I want to start with scene 1. You get the idea, but you can create up to 8 scenes. If I expand this out, you'll see that you can do that. So there are 8 default. If you want to add a new scene, then you just click this button here. And if you want to stop any particular row of cells, you can do that with these stop buttons and so on and so forth. So you've got complete control over these, and you can trigger these from something like the Atom or the Atom SQ. You can trigger scenes from the same. I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that because I don't have the right setup to be able to do that. But suffice to say that you can, and I believe that Gregor will be doing a video that demonstrates that. So check out his video on the launcher if you want to see the launcher done in detail and being triggered from hardware controller devices. But I'm not going to be able to cover that. But suffice to say, we have a launcher. It's pretty cool. If you come from something like Ableton Live, then you'll kind of know what this is already, and you'll have a head start on this. This is all completely brand new to me. This is not familiar territory for me at all, which is why I'm kind of fudging my way through showing it to you. But like I said, I'll do a bit more of a detailed video showing you how you can do some extra stuff like recording into cells and that kind of thing in a separate standalone video. All right, there we go. So that is the end of this overview of Studio One Pro 7. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you have found it useful and informative. I apologize for it being a wee bit on the lengthy side, but you know, even just scratching the surface, it takes up quite a wee bit of time. But thanks very much for all your patience and for your attention. Please hit the subscribe button if you like the content that I have brought to you in this overview. And there are going to be a bunch of breakout videos as well. So if you want to watch an individual feature in a video on its own, you can do, because those videos will be in this playlist, as well as the standalone videos, which will be coming in addition to this overview as well. But otherwise, I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.